Hi folks, today I'll show you how I put together a new version of the vertical strawberry towers. Back in 2009, you may recall the video about the first version where I melted and formed 4-inch piping so that it creates pockets for the plants. They work well, except for one thing. When the plants start to get too large, the towers get root bound and the water can't flow through the tower. And when this happens, the plant is packed into the tower in shale media so tightly they're nearly impossible to remove, and I have to pry them out. It's starting to get very labor intensive to do the transplanting. For this new design, there's nothing really original about it, and you'll probably notice it looks very similar to the ZipGrow towers from Bright Agrotech. This is an attempt to make a poor man's version, so stay tuned about my opinion about this modified design. First, I needed to cut a slot down a section of pipe. I made up this jig to hold a piece of 4-inch pipe in place. The key is to make the width slightly smaller than the pipe so it can wedge into the jig and not move. I then run a screw through it to ensure it won't move in the jig while it's being cut. The jig is then flipped over so the walls are able to ride along the saw's table, keeping the pipe from rolling and providing a nice straight cut. I then move the fence over by ½ an inch and do a second cut. The pipe tends to collapse onto itself, so just be careful of sniping at the end of the cut. Once you get a pattern established, it's a lot faster than heating and forming pockets. Next is a way to catch the water going through the towers. Since I'm putting them around the fish tank, they won't be in a straight line, so I can't use a straight gutter section. I took some 4-inch end caps and tapped a 3/4 inch fitting into it. I've said it before, a tap set is a great way to connect fittings into all types of items. This hole will hold a 3/4 inch NPT to 3/4 inch barbed fitting. Also, the ABS drain pipe, cap, and fittings were all purchased from a typical box hardware store. There is some extra space in front of the fish tank, so I thought it would be a great spot for the towers. Plus it will help to shade the water some more. The only problem is that there is no drain in the floor. It's time for a little digging and tapping into the existing floor drain. Looking back at the original greenhouse design, I'm still glad that I put sand and bricks into the floor so I can make changes like this. The last part of the drain was a bit tricky since I wanted the setup to match the curvature of the fish tank. With some careful heating of the pipe, it became soft enough to bend around the tank. To hold the towers in place, I fabricated a couple of brackets that could slide onto the rim of the fish tank. The brackets have slots in them, and I drilled a hole through the back side of each tower at the right height and fastened a stainless steel bolt through the hole with a piece of rubber around the head to keep water from leaking out. The bolts slide into the bracket slot which supports the upper section of the tower, and the drain plug fits into a 1-inch hole that is drilled into the drain pipe which supports the bottom section of the tower. To keep the drain from getting plugged, I added a piece of mesh material, which is used at construction sites, and created a space between the plug and the media. It's what I had lying around, but a piece of wadded screening would probably work just as well. Since the pipe tends to curl into itself, I made up some T-shaped spacers to wedge into the slot. These are temporary until the media is filled in. Putting each tower in place is the easy part, since they just drop into the drain hole and slot. I'm using expanded shale in each tower for the media. Filling the towers wasn't very pleasant, since they had to be filled 1 scoop at a time. I would fill it to the level of the plant, then put the strawberry plant in, and then continue filling. can plan on making a mess since the smaller stones come flying out of the slots. I finally recruited my helper and had her hold the plant into place with a small makeshift scoop while I poured in the shale. This was far quicker than doing it alone. Pump in the fish tank that's on a timer, which feeds the water to the top of the towers. Then each tower has a ball valve to regulate the flow. I found if the flow was too fast, that sometimes the water would start to drip out of the slots.
Overall, I'm really happy with version 2.0 of these towers. They work well for strawberries since they only have to be transplanted every couple of years. But if I were doing anything like lettuce or any other crop that only has a much shorter lifespan, I definitely wouldn't use something like this, mainly because of the weight of the towers. They're about 60 pounds a piece, so they're difficult to throw around. And they are much harder to get plants in and out of. So I would stick with something like the commercially available Zip Grow towers, where they have a nice lightweight media in them and very quick and easy to get your plants in and out of. That's about it. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe to our channel and give it a thumbs up. Thanks a lot. Fail. This media originally came out of some beds that I had beets in that I let go to seed. And looks like there were a few left over. It'll be interesting to see what happens with beets in a vertical tower.